Think about it like this. You know how buildings have fire codes? Things like sprinklers, clear exits, fire escapes, all designed to keep people safe. Well, for any financial business in New York, we now have a digital fire code. It's the Department of Financial Services Cybersecurity Regulation, and today we're going to flip through this rulebook and see what it all means.
So let's just start with a really big question, okay? Is your business a target for cybercriminals? Maybe you feel like you're too small, or that what you do isn't really on their radar. Well, you might be surprised to hear that the state of New York has a very, very clear opinion on that. And that answer is a big, flashing yes. If you are licensed or regulated in any way by the New York Department of Financial Services, the state considers you a target, full stop, and it expects you to act like one. That's pretty much the entire foundation of this whole regulation.
So, to make sense of all this, we're going to tackle 5 key areas. First, why these rules even exist. Then, the big one, does this actually cover you? We'll look at exemptions, your potential get-out-of-jail-free card. Then we'll walk through the core checklist of what you actually need to do. And finally, we'll talk deadlines, the stuff you absolutely can't miss.
Okay, so why is this happening now? Well, the DFS is pretty blunt about it. The game has changed. Hackers are way more sophisticated, attacks are easier than ever to launch. I mean, you can literally buy ransomware as a service online, and the cost of cleaning up a data breach is just astronomical. This isn't just theory, it's a direct response to what's happening out there in the real world. And that's the whole point. The regulation, its fancy name is 23 NYCRR Part 500, but don't worry about that. It isn't meant to be punishment. It's all about setting a baseline, a minimum standard of defense to protect both your business and, your customers from these very real threats. All right, so this brings us to the million-dollar question that everybody asks. Does this whole thing even apply to me? To figure that out, there's one key term you gotta know, and that is covered entity. Let's break down what that really means. Honestly, it's pretty simple. If your business needs any kind of license, registration, charter, whatever from the New York DFS to operate, then, yep, you're a covered entity. They intentionally made the definition really broad to cast a wide net.
And we're not just talking about the huge banks here. This covers pretty much the whole shebang. Banks, sure, but also insurance companies, individual insurance agents and brokers, mortgage companies, money transmitters, even businesses dealing in virtual currencies. If you're on this list, you're covered.
Okay, but hold on. Just because you're a covered entity, it doesn't automatically mean you have to do every single thing in the rulebook. This is where exemptions come in, and for smaller businesses, this is absolutely crucial to understand. There are basically 2 flavors. A full exemption is for folks whose cybersecurity is totally handled by another big DFS-regulated company. Think of a captive insurance agent. You just file a notice saying, they've got me covered and you're good. But the limited exemption is different. That one's specifically designed for small businesses, and it massively cuts down your to-do list.
This limited exemption, this is going to be the most common path for thousands of small firms and individual operators. So the big question is, do you qualify? It comes down to 3 tests.
First up, head count. Do you have fewer than 20 people working for you? And here's the fine print. That includes employees and independent contractors, and it counts everyone across all your affiliated companies, no matter where they're located.
Second, revenue. Did your business make less than $7.5 million in gross annual revenue in each of the last 3 years? Again, that's for your whole operation, plus any New York business from your affiliates.
And third, assets. At the end of the year, are your total assets under $15 million? This also includes the assets of all your affiliates. Now here's the key part. You only have to meet one of these 3 criteria to qualify for that limited exemption. So let's say you do qualify for that limited exemption. Awesome, but it doesn't mean you do nothing. You still have a core to-do list. So let's take a look at the absolute essentials your program needs to cover. It really boils down to these 5 things. Number 1, you gotta do a risk assessment. You can't protect yourself if you don't know where you're vulnerable. 2, that assessment helps you build your cybersecurity program and policies, your actual rulebook. 3, you've gotta manage your vendors. If you give a third-party access to your data, their security is your problem. 4, limit who can access what, and don't keep data forever. And finally, number 5, you have to report incidents when they happen and file a certification with the DFS every single year. Now, let's talk about timing, because this isn't a get-to-it-when-you-can kind of thing. The rules have been rolling out in phases, and there are some very specific, very strict deadlines you need to know about, especially when it comes to reporting problems.
As you can see, this has been an ongoing process. Some of these deadlines are already in the rearview mirror, like the new reporting rules from late 2023. But look ahead. If you're an exempt business, things like multi-factor authentication and new training requirements are coming for you in November 2024. You've got to stay on top of this.
But really, all of this planning, all these policies, they're to prepare you for that moment when things go sideways. And when that happens, there are two numbers you absolutely have to have burned into your brain.
The first number is 72. From the second you determine that a real cybersecurity incident has happened, the clock starts. You have exactly 72 hours to notify the DFS. That is not a lot of time.
And the second number is even scarier, 24. If you get hit with ransomware and you decide to make an extortion payment, you have only 24 hours from the moment you pay to report it. This is a brand new rule, and they are not messing around.
And this quote from the DFS really brings it all home. They're basically saying, listen, we've investigated hundreds of these breaches. These rules aren't just random. We've seen what works. And their biggest takeaway is that you can do a lot to protect yourselves. This stuff is preventable.
So at the end of the day, it all boils down to one simple question. We all lock the physical doors to our businesses at night, right? It's just common sense. Well, is your digital front door locked? Because with this regulation, you can be sure of one thing. New York is checking.